Halacha Aleph. So we are on Nun Dalet number base, if I can recall correctly. We are where it says Rabbi Chia Barva. Well, you don't have Barva, just have Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, do you have it?
No.
Rabbi Chia b'shem. Okay, got it. Everybody has it. Rabbi Chia. Now this is not Rabbi Chia the Great, Tana, the Tana. This is actually Rabbi Chia Barva, and I actually have Rabbi Chia Barva in my Gemara. Rabbi Chia Barva, b'shem Rabbi Yochanan, Sene Rabbi Yochanan. What? It couldn't be the Rebbe, of course. The Rebbe. Our Mishnah is going like Rebbe. Our Mishnah says that one is allowed to put wine into one's fish brine. The Tanya we learn Yain Lemurias, wine into fish brine. Rabbi Mati, Rabbi says it's permissible. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon Oyser. Eliezer Shimon says you're not allowed to put wine of truma into fish brine. Why is that? Because the only reason why they put it in, from Rabbi Shimon's perspective, is in order to take away an off taste, and therefore it's an improper use of truma. Not only is it an improper use of truma in and of itself, but interestingly enough, the Mefarshim say it's not nosei tam. Whereas it takes away the off taste, it doesn't give its own favorable taste. And that in and of itself is a problem with truma, because truma is supposed to enjoy, and you're not enjoying the truma by eating it this way. Lefichach, therefore, the flip side of this is, what if you did put wine into brine, fish brine? Rabbi Yosef Rabbi says this is a legitimate way by which you can eat truma, and therefore this remains forbidden for Zorim, for non-Kohanim. Rabbi Lezer Shimon says, however, since this is the reason why he forbade putting the wine to fish brine is because it loses its status and its flavor and everything. So therefore now, once you transgress to put it in, it's mutter for a non-Kohen to eat. No, couldn't be. Couldn't be. Because this is... oh yeah, it is. I'm sorry. This is Rabbi and Rabbi Lezer. Yeah, it is. This is son of Rabbi Shimon. I'm sorry. Ramana Bar Tanchum, boy. Ramana Bar Tanchum asks the question, L'divim Mishamati L'zar, according to Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, who permits this for non-Kohanim, Muriyat Shel Goyim Lama Aser. Why do we forbid buying fish brine from non-Jews? The assumption is that the fish brine of non-Jews is also because of they put wine, right? Yain Nesach. But if you're going to say the wine is nullified when it's present in the fish brine, so it shouldn't ask for the fish brine. So we're going to have a couple of answers. First answer, Rabbi Chia Barva said Mishum Bishulei Goyim. It's not also because of the wine, but because of Bishul Akum, because they cook the fish brine. Okay? Chosi Rabbi Yetzer is the asked question that he didn't like this. But tiny little brisa shel uman muter. The brine of a craftsman is permissible. The brine of a person who's not a craftsman is also. It seems like if you are a good enough chef, you can make good fish brine without the wine. If you weren't such a good chef, you made fish brine only with wine. Okay, so then it's not permissible. The uman mutar, when it says that which is made by a craftsman is mutar, lavafil mavushal, it doesn't draw a distinction. It sounds like even if it's cooked, with the kava also and vice versa, sheino uman aser, if it comes to a person who's not a craftsman, it's forbidden. Afil eino mavushal, even if it's not cooked. So we see it clearly that it has nothing to do with cooked or not cooked. It must have to do with something else, because then there would be no distinction between craftsman or not craftsman. Well, rather, must have to do with the presence of wine, and therefore a kasha comes back. Okay. Now, as an aside, why is there no bishul akum here? Because it's not olo shulchan melachim. It's not served at state dinners, right? And we know anything which is not served at state dinners to significant people doesn't have a status of, doesn't require Bishul Yisro. So therefore, I'm assuming that fish brine was thought to be significant food. It was like, like a snack or something which you cooked in, whatever. So therefore, it's not a problem of Bishul Akum, it's only a problem of wine. Rabbi Yochanan Bar Moria, and this is a parenthetical remark we're about to learn. Yochanan said, Afilu, even Kimada Marshal Uman Mutar, even according to people which holds that when it was made by a craftsman, it's permissible. Ovachioda, you have to know. You have to be able to trust him. You know that he's a trustworthy fellow. If you don't know he's trustworthy, so maybe he did put in wine. Now, Hada Amra, getting back to the question we asked before. Why is the fish brine mutter when you put the truma in? According to Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon, yet the fish brine is usher when there's truma wine in it. So it says Gemara Damra Hadoyas truma muteres Hadoyas Hanoyas Avodah Zarah Asura. Very simple, because there's no taste. There's only benefit. A non-Kohen is allowed to benefit from truma, but a non-Kohen is not allowed to benefit from Avodah Zarah. And if there's the Ayin Nesel there, you're benefiting from Avodah Zarah, the benefit in and of itself is awesome. Okay, we're on the top of Nun Hayim and Aleph now, for those who have the Vilna pagination. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan had a machlokas. Now, this goes back to the case in our Mishnah. Case where you say you're not allowed to cook wine of Truma. Not allowed to cook it. So one says because it loses volume. Because less people drink cooked wine, it doesn't taste as good. We didn't know which of the two said what. For that which Rabbi Yochanan said over there. Now over there means earlier in Masech there was a case in Parak Beis, the end of Halacha Gimel. It said that in middle of Halacha Gimel. So it said that it said there that Rabbi Yehuda said that you're not allowed to take truma from cooked wine and non-cooked wine. It's not allowed to take truma from cooked wine and not cooked wine. So it sounds like cooked wine is inferior. And in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda, at the beginning of our parak, said you're allowed to cook wine because it makes it superior. So it's a contradiction of Rabbi Yehuda. In one place, Rabbi Yehuda says it seems to say you're not allowed to take from cooked wine and non-cooked wine, which seems to indicate that it's inferior. Yet here it says you're allowed to cook the wine, which seems to indicate that it's superior.
But here you're using the wine to make something else taste better.
No, there's a separate case in our Mishnah. Look back in the Mishnah. The last line in the Mishnah said, this is not putting it back in the fish brine.
The earlier Mishnah was that cooked wine versus non-cooked wine is almost like two different products. And therefore, that's why you can't take two from one on another.
We never saw that.
No?
We've seen that principle, but not by the cook. No. Now we're going to review the answers. Says more, Rabbi Yochanan said, Mimada Rabbi Yochanan Tamon, Michalpa Shitosei Rabbi Yehuda. That you have to read Rabbi Yehuda differently. Rabbi Yehuda really meant to say the exact opposite. You can't take from non-cooked wine on cooked wine. Because Rabbi Yehuda, cooked wine tastes better. Because that's consistent with his opinion on our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says he's allowed to cook wine. So Rabbi Yochanan said that you have to switch Rabbi Yehuda's Shita. V'amar Rabbi Elazar enu muchlefes. Rabbi Elazar, however, said that you don't switch around the shitas, and really the truth is that cooked wine is inferior. You don't cook wine is inferior. However, kan b'kohen. What do you have? Kan b'kohen b'bailim.
We switch around. We're showing Tom on b'kohen and kan b'bailim.
That's actually, I like that girsa better. Tamam b'kohen kam b'bailim is probably a better girsa than one I have. I don't know why he switches it. But really what it means is that here, I see why, because Tamon, it's the Yerushalmi. Tamon, very often Yerushalmi here means there and there means here. So Tamon really means in our case. Here it's the Kohen who's allowed to cook it. The Kohen's allowed to cook it because he says the Kohen's allowed to cook wine because for him it's superior. Really, cooked wine is in absolute terms objectively inferior. But here in our Mishnah, talking about a Kohen who likes to cook wine. So he's an aberrant, a deviant Kohen. But he's allowed to, he's allowed to do it. So Kam Kohen, there but Bailim. There, a Kohen's not allowed to cook the wine. A Kohen's allowed to cook the wine because he likes it better. But owners, when they can't take up truma, they should not take truma from cooked wine, not cooked wine, because cooked wine is inferior. Have a Rabbi Yochanan who, so since Rabbi Elazar created that distinction between the Kohen and the regular, and the owner, Kohen and the guy, the Yisrael's take of Trubas and Maasros, have a Rabbi Yochanan who do Omar, it must be According to Rabbi Eliezer, talking about a case where the Kohen already has it. So Rabbi Eliezer can't be the one who said that by cooking it, you're going to diminish the amount of people who are going to drink it. On the contrary, because according to Rabbi Eliezer, the guy who was cooking it is the end user, who you're depriving it of. It's already in the hands of the end user. So it must be Rabbi Yochanan's one who said he can't cook it. Rabbi Yochanan's one who says you can't cook it because less people will drink cooked wine. Because although Rabbi Yochanan holds that according to Rabbi Yehuda, cooked wine is better, but not everybody likes cooked wine. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan said that Rabbanan hold don't cook the wine because less people will drink it. Rabbi Yehuda holds you can cook the wine because it's better.
I was just going to ask you,
Yeah.
what's between the bushel and cooked wine?
The same thing. Yain Mevushal it's not supposed to taste as good. That's why there's no problem of Yain Nesach, because the taka doesn't taste as good. We basket it doesn't taste as
I
good.
thought that's why it's not alive anymore.
What?
It's not alive anymore once you cook it.
The wine?
Yeah, it's alive otherwise. The yeast is still alive.
No, there's nothing to do with it.
Oh, that?
I think they kill. I don't think. I think that. I'm not sure. But that definitely has nothing to do with it. I didn't know that was scientifically true that the yeast was still working. Yeah, it's true. All right, but maybe it's true. Otherwise, we wouldn't turn the vinegar in the bottle. But in any event, so the thing is, the bottom line is that cooked wine, according to Rabbi Yehuda, might be better. But the Bible, Rabbi Yochanan says, Lemaisa, less people will drink it. Right? Rabbi Eliezer, on the other hand, learns a whole Mishnah where Rabbi Yehuda allows you to cook it. It's talking about a case where the end user has it already. So you can't say less people are going to drink it as a result. So he must. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, the reason our Mishnah is because fewer. There's going to be less to drink because some of it is going to evaporate when you boil away. Lakish also said that the reason is because less people are going to be able to drink it because not so many people like cooked wine. Okay, on to halacha base. Dvash tmorim. Now, something we were talking about last night, and you were right about it. You'll see, obviously, we'll see. Dvash tmorim, honey of dates, v'yain tapuchim, and wine from apples, the chomet sidfonios, and vinegar, wine vinegar. Sidfonios are a certain kind of grapes which make vinegar. V'shar kol minei mei peros shel truma, and any other fruit juice of truma. What happens if you drink it or drink that fruit juice? Rabbi Eliezer Mechayev Keren V'chosh. Rabbi Eliezer says you pay Keren and Chomesh, the principal plus a fifth, because this is truma. It's bona fide truma. Rabbi Yeshua says it's not bona fide truma. Rabbi Eliezer Mitame V'Shumashka. Similar, Rabbi Eliezer says all these things are tummy because they're regarded as beverages, meaning they're machshir l'kabel tumah. If they fall on a fruit, they make it suitable to be makabel tumah. Rabbi Yeshua said, Lo menu chachami shiva mashkim. Chachami, when they enumerated the 7 liquids, they didn't count the kamoni ptomi like somebody who counts his wares, a spice dealer, and said, there's 7, but there are more. Elomru shiva mashkits meim v'sharko mashkitor, and they meant there are exactly 7, which can create machshir kabel tuma, and all other ones are toy. They're not machshir kabel tuma, and including all those in our Mishnah, they're not machshir kabel tuma as well. Now, what are the 7 we mentioned last night? I have them written down here: hatal, dew, mayim, water, yain, wine, shemen, oil, dam, blood, cholav, milk, udvash, devorim, and bee honey, not date honey. Okay? Havam boilam meimar, says the Gemara. They wanted to say, maplik in b'chomesh. Everybody, what do they argue about? The additional chomesh, the additional fifth, which a penalty, which a person who eats truma b'shogeg pays a kohen. Avo b'keren after b'shua modi. But in terms of the principle, even Rabbi Shua agrees that since it was derived from truma, even though now it's a juice, so if you drink it, you pay the kohen for the principle. Ma pleading l'shavar. What are we talking about also? When it was already when it was after the fact, in other words, you had truma and fruit juice came out, was secreted by it. What's its status? Well, let's say you actually had orange juice before you took off Trumas and Meisers, so even Rabbi Yeshua agrees you have to take Meiser off the orange juice. In other words, where you had Truma and orange juice came out of it, so then we have all the machleksim in our Mishnah, if the orange juice has the same status of the Truma itself or not. But where you have orange juice before you take off, so everybody agrees that orange juice is chayiv in Truma. It's not exempt from the Truma it's chayiv in. V'atanya asked the Gemara, how can you say this? And we learn Dvash Morim Rabbi Lezer Mechayiv Meisres Rabbi Yeshua Poiter. Rabbi Yeshua says you're exempt for giving Meiser on date honey, right? So says the Gemara, low kash, it's not difficult. Conscious of mishnitbu depends when the honey flowed out of the dates. If it was after it became tevel, which after the fruit itself was chayiv in Trumas and Meisers, such as it came into a house after Gemar Malacha, then there's no way to get out of Meisering the juice. Conscious of Achalonit Bulu, but if the fruit juice flowed out before it became tevel, in other words, when it's still permissible to eat the fruit off the cuff without taking off Trumas and Meisers, if that's when the fruit juice flowed out, so then it's exempt from Trumas and Meisers. Umod Rabbi Lezer ever concedes, Shim Eiser al Atmor, that even though Rabbi Lezer says that fruit juice is just like the juice, fruit itself, he does concede this point. Shim Eiser al Atmorim Kan. If you take Trumas and Meisers off the dates which are in front of you, then the fruit juice which was secreted, even if it's in another location, even if it's in the city of Aspamia, in the Bashan, which is far away, mutter becomes permissible. Milsi Amrof, this teaches us that when you take meiser from the dates on the honey, you do it according to the dates. Therefore, even if the honey has already been separated and carted off to some other city, you take the truma here on the date for the honey. Now, it's a very important machlokas we're about to learn. According to this approach, you don't have to take the amount of honey into account, because the honey is not in front of you; it's in another city, so you don't actually know how much honey flowed out of these dates. Nonetheless, I look at the dates themselves and say, if it's good enough truma for the dates themselves, then the honey is as if I took off truma some mitzvahs on it as well. Okay, that's one opinion. Now we're going to learn another opinion. Tanya, Rabbi Nosson Omer. Losh Rabbi Elazar Mechaye b'Meisres. It's not that Rabbi Elazar requires that the honey should get its own meiser. Elosh Rabbi Elazar Meshlo Yachami Atmorim. Just Rabbi Elazar said you shouldn't eat from the dates until you take meiser off on the honey. Milsa Amarab, but what Rabbi Nosson means to infer is Shu meiser min atmore, that when you take meiser off the dates, you would lefid vash lefid morim. Here, according to Rabbi Nosson, you have to take both into account. He says you must know how much honey there is before taking the trumas and meisers from the dates. Is that clear what he's saying? What? He's got a problem. Then he's got a problem.
Can't you take an estimate and say, give it this amount?
Yeah, for truma you can, but not for meiser. He would have to a problem. Meiser can't be estimated. It has to be exact. Okay? Because it's percentage.
You can't make it more?
You can. That's true. You can add on. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Lezer, okay, I have a header here which you don't have. We're talking. You do? You have Rabbi Lezer Matami B'Chulei?
Right.
Boy, it's very random in your Gemara. Okay. Lezer Matami B'Chulei. Rabbi Lezer said that these mashkim are machshel l'kabel tuma. So says Moratani Rabbi Nosson Noimer. Nosson says a shocking thing. Lo Rabbi Lezer Matami B'Shum mashke. It's not Rabbi Lezer holds that they're beverage. No. The questions like this. A drop of water fell into a gallon of orange juice. What would you think happens to the drop of water? It's obviously a trick question, right? Right. But obviously this is what the Gemara says, it's not botel. The mashke of the maypairs are not sufficient to invata water. On the contrary, the water changes the characteristic of now this mixture. It's a shocking concept. But that's what Rabbi Nosson says in Rabbi Lezer. Water fell into the fruit juice. In that case, it says Rabbi Lezer mitame mishum mashke. Lezer says now it's all regarded as being a beverage. The Chomei Mochim Achrochim say we go after the majority substance. Al daiti Rabbi Nosson.
He says that the water is still being, the whole mixture is water, truma water.
You got it. No, not truma water. The whole Mishnah, this is a separate issue in the Mishnah. We're talking about stam, whether orange juice can be machshir l'kabel tuma. If orange juice falls on your apple, can you machshir l'kabel tuma? No. But if orange juice with a drop of water falls in your apple, it can be machshir l'kabel tuma. That's what he's saying.
So anything, so you're just saying that any amount.
Yes. That's right. It's not considered sufficiently diffused by virtue of the fact of falling into this. Fruit itself cannot. Adai Rabbi Nosson, according to Rabbi Nosson, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi Eliezer, Shlosham Davar Achon. All these three Tanoim had a similar svore. Rabbi Meir, which is Rabbi Meir, Du Omar, he says, Ein me peiros b'teilim liolo. Now, really, this is Yerushalmi, so Ein me peiros b'teilim liolo means me peiros are never mevatel. Me peiros are never mevatel, they never cancel the water. The water always retains its character. That's what we just learned, right? Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, where did he say something similar? It's not Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov Omer. Tzir Tor Shenova Tochel Mayim Kosher. We had similar. We had this really yesterday already. Tzir a similar thing, not this quite. Tzir Tor Shenova Tochel Mayim. If you had fish brine, which water fell in, it's metame. In other words, the fish brine now can't be machshir something like kabel tuma because of the drop of water, which is very similar to the drop of water in fruit juice, and hodin to Rabbi Lezer, which is the case of Rabbi Lezer, the third case, which is in line with the other two. My time to Rabbi Lezer. Now, getting back to the Mishnah, Rabbi Nosson says it's only because there's water in the fruit juice, and the water in the fruit juice is what's machshir kabel tuma. But the Pashup Shana Mishnah is that the fruit juice itself is machshir kabel tuma, according to Rabbi Lezer, not the water in it. My time is Rabbi Lezer. What's the logic of Rabbi Lezer according to Pashup Shana in the Mishnah? See, because it says, dumb question?
Yes. What is fish?
What's fish brine? You salt the fish and stuff starts coming out of it.
So it's
ooze.
So it's strictly no water added. It's whatever the natural juices of this fish do.
Yeah. You salt any vegetable, you'll also get that kind of thing.
I understand, but typically you salt a schmaltz or a herring. That's when you soak it in water. That's
right. That's not what's happening.
This is not fish brine.
No. We don't have this anymore, obviously. Okay? My time is, what's the logic of Rabbi Lezer? See if it says, B'chol mashke. It says any beverage. What does beverage mean? No matter what. Not just 7. My time the Rabbanan, what's the logic of Rabbanan? Asher yishoseh, something which is they normally drink. As opposed to fruit juice, which people don't normally drink. Now, they obviously didn't have the same customs we do. We drink apple juice, we drink orange juice. What? V8, right? Bloody Marys. So they didn't have it then back then. They didn't drink fruit juice. So therefore, fruit juice is not considered to be a mashke. There's questions whether halacha changed nowadays. Not clear. We don't know. We honestly don't know. Okay? What?
Why expand the takana?
What do you mean the takana?
About what's mukshal kabel tum anyway.
No, it's the deraisa. The deraisa will only have psukim here. V'chol mashke. My time of the Rabbanan, what's the logic of Rabbanan? Asher yishos, it's got to be something which you drink. So we're learning out from psukim. We're going to continue with that thought further. Ma Rabbi Lezer, who does Rabbi Lezer hold like? Now, I don't know what gears you have here, but I think your gears are going to be a lot different than mine for the next 2 or 3 lines. My Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Akiva. Lezer also Rabbi Akiva. So Akiva says, Klal uprat, if you have a generality specification, the chazar v'kila, and then a generality again, hakol bichlal, everything is included. Now, that means one thing in the Bavli, but here in the Yerushalmi it's something completely different. It means that Rabbi Akiva holds that whenever you have a klal prat klal, you don't darshan klal prat klal. You darshan it ribui miut uveribui. This one which you have sometimes the Bavli, but it's more explicit there, that there's a basic knowledge in Rabbi Kiva Shmuel throughout Shas. To a darshan, according to Rabbi Shmuel, they're klal pratu klal, etc., as it says in the price of Rabbi Shmuel at the end of Karbanos, right? According to Rabbi Akiva, there's no such thing. Everything is ribuy umiyut. And ribuy umiyut is a far more inclusive tool than klal prat. Because ribuy means everything is included. Miyut is memait, one thing. Whereas klal prat means, the generality is limited by being very similar to the specification. So therefore, Rabbi Lezer darshans the pasuk like Rabbi Akiva. For Rabbi Akiva, and this is even greater than Rabbi Akiva, to Amar few klalu prat, because Rabbi Akiva concedes that when you have a ribuy umiyut, then you remind something, right? To Rabbi Eliezer saying, to Amar few klalu prat al kol bichlal. There we have a klau, which is kol mashke, and then a prat, asher yishaseh. He just ignores the prat, and it says that any beverage is included in that which is machshir kabel tumah. Rabbi Priguri, the Kesari Namar, Rabbi Priguri of Caesarea said, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shmuel. No, let's keep it going, Rabbi Shmuel, who holds that you do that in klalu prats. Kachi, I make sure Rabbi Lezer Chomim, where this is Rabbi Lezer said Chomim. Kimodi Yislachon Asher Yachel. What do I do with your prat? Just like you hold it to Asher Yachel, which it says by I forget what it says that part. What? Yeah, I don't know what it's talking about there, Vayikra. Anyway, there it says that it precludes food which is rotting or disgusting. So the Asher said doesn't preclude any kind of beverage. It precludes mashkes ruach, a beverage which is disgusting. So they said to Rabbi.
So what's the net result right now at this point of this machlokes? According to Kiva, only 7 mashkin. According to Shmuel, everyone.
No, the opposite. According to Rabbi Kiva, all mashkin. According to Kiva, all mashkin, because he dashes ribuy miut.
So the miut is mamayit a
one thing, and then the Gemara goes on to say that according to Rabbi Akiva, it's not even mamayit anything. That's saying Rabban Rabbi Akiva, saying even bigger chish Rabbi Akiva. That here there's no miut. Whereas according to Rabbi Shmuel, we say ein b'klal mash b'prat. But the prat are the 7 things you drink, so therefore that's included in the klal, no more.
So then according to Kiva, every mashkin.
Right. Bar none is machshir kabel tumah. That's right. Okay? Says Gemara, so what does he do with Asher Yishoseh? Now Rabbi Priguri is saying the Rabbi Lezer even works out like Rabbi Shmuel, Darshan's klal prat. What does he do with the prat though? So the prat here comes to preclude only that which is already repulsive, disgusting. Amrele, so they said to him, no, ein domin ochel l'mashkin. You can't draw a comparison between food and beverage. Loy mat b'ochlin, you can't ochel v'saruach meikorotor. Maybe by food, you say that impure, disgusting food is not machshir l'kabel tumah, or whatever it is, not machshir. I forget what it is there in Vayikra, but it doesn't fulfill its purpose and its destiny. Tor mashkin, that might not be true by beverages. By mashkin, shkei mashkin surch meikor, there's a certain type of beverage which has been repulsive from the get-go. But still is machshir kabel tumah. The more later on we'll say it's salt water. Even though it's repulsive machshir kabel tumah. So too, I'm going to say that, I'm not going to say that Asher Yishaseh comes to preclude only repulsive liquids. You know why? Because there are repulsive liquids which are machshir kabel tumah, which is that seawater. And I'll show you a pasuk about that, but not yet. Another way of refuting Rabbi Eliezer is could be by foodstuffs are different, because foodstuffs are considered to be foodstuffs if they're suitable for human consumption even without any proper designation. Torah mashkin, but beverages, there's certain beverages which are destined to be consumed by a human being, such as rainwater, but nonetheless they need thought. In other words, rainwater, if it falls in your fruit, is not automatically machshir kabel tuma. You need to want the rainwater. We learned that in Masechta Shabbos recently. You need to want the rainwater. So it could be that by water there are more special parameters. Could be that by mashkin, which are machshir kabel tuma, you need more stringent parameters. Right? And this is one of the more stringent parameters. Asher Shoseh, right? Nation tzricha machshava. Yay, mashke suruach. So no, it says the Gemara. You know what? If they need machshava, yay, mashke suruach tamei. So what do you want to say? Rabbi Lezer was coming to say. Let's go through the steps here. Rabbi Lezer was coming to say that Asher Yisoseh comes to preclude mashke suruach, comes to preclude repulsive liquids. Says more, if anyway you need a machshava to make beverages suitable, lahachshir, l'kabel, lahachshir, l'tumah. So once that machshava works, that machshava should work for mashke suruach as well. Thought overrides natural repulsion, so therefore it should work, right? So how can you preclude mashke suruach? Say if it's told contingent on machshava, so machshava should work for mashke suruach as well. Adarabah. You want because the mashke, since they need machshava, the mashke suruach should be tahar? No, it should still be tamei. At davar acher. So it says more, Yerushalmi, this davar acher does not mean another answer. It means ella, rather. Let's go. We can't. This is what they meant to say. By food, we preclude disgusting food. You know why? Because food is special, unique. Food you can't designate. If you have ochel behema, such as one of the herbs which normally only animals eat, and you want to designate it for human consumption, you can't do it until it's severed from the ground. Can't do what's still growing. Torah v'mashkin, that's not true by beverages. Shkei mashkin behema l'odam boy b'machshava. There the case where there's liquid in the ground, such as rainwater. You can designate it when it's still mechuber l'karka. You don't have to pick it up in a bucket and say, oh, now it's for human consumption. Even if it's still in the ground, I can still designate it for human consumption. So, Vitani came and learned in a brisa. Mashke on the ground, which is the same. In other words, when it's in a crack in the ground or in a spring or anywhere. So Vitani came lost into the brisa. Kol mashke, any beverage is machshir kabatul matam lo sheishoseh. Pragla mashke suruach divrei Rabbi Eliezer. It precludes disgusting liquids. Amrulo, they said, There's no beverage in the world which is not suitable at least for birds or for cows, and therefore all beverages are machshir kabatuma, even if they're repulsive, because as long as they have machshava on them. It's true you need machshava, but the machshava works so even if it's repulsive. So they rejected his assumption that Asher Shoseh comes to preclude repulsive liquids. And therefore they're learning Asher Shoseh comes to preclude everything, as long as it's not one of the 7 mashkin which we have in tradition are the bona fide mashkin. Okay?
What about blood, which is
yeah. No, it means that it changed. It rotted. We're talking about fresh blood suitable for vampires for the expiration date. It's a where it went bad. Okay? Chavrai b'shem Rabbi Eliezer. The Chaverim said name Rabbi Eliezer. Mor Rabbi Eliezer Chachomim. Rabbi Eliezer could teach the Chachomim. B'mashke suruch me'koro shu tomei. If you had a mashke which was suruch from the get-go. In other words, it began repulsive when it was born, so to speak, that it is machshel kabel tumah. What's the case? Well, today we learned to ask him, how can you say this? How can you say that he agrees? Well, and then we learned that he disagrees. We learned to the brayso, if you have secretions which come out of olives, then Rebbe Eliezer Mitar, Rebbe Eliezer says it's not machshel kabel tumah. So we see it's not true. We see Rebbe Eliezer argued even by something which is saruach from the get-go. Says more, you're right. What was the case in which Rabbi Eliezer conceded? Rabbi Eliezer said, Moda Rabbi Eliezer l'chachami b'mei yamagodo, by seawater. That's the case he meant to concede. Why by seawater? Because shafilu in tzruchim hakosa koritza mayim. Even though they're repulsive from the beginning because they're salt water, the Teira calls them waters. Okay? Shneimar. It says, mikveh amayim, to the collection of waters, Hashem kora yamim, called seas. Rabbi Yaakov said, the B'Shem Rabbi Avo said, Moide Rabbi Eliezer Chachomim, Rabbi Eliezer Katzid Chachomim, b'mei tchodin u'mei shloko she'enim machshirin, by beet water and by water in which vegetables are cooked, that they're not machshir kabel tumah. This is a very difficult line because it's water. You put water in the pot, so why is it not machshir kabel tumah? Especially the Gemara Bracha says if you eat that water, you make a bari pre'etz on it, or bari pre'adama, right? Because it's considered to be very similar to the fruit itself. So the answer is, that's really the answer, according to one opinion, that it's not water. It's become a part and parcel of the fruit of the vegetable which has been cooked in it. Okay, so therefore, it's not mashal kabel tumah. That's to make a bar pre'etz on it or bar pre'adama. But if it's cooked fruit or cooked vegetables, even on the waters, you may call it the eitz adama. That's one interpretation. The Rash Shir Leo says that this is talking about a case not where there was water in the pot, but rather like the fish brine secretions from the vegetables themselves. And that's why they're not machshel kabel tumah.
The first part cannot be according to what we had before by Rabbi Eliezer
Rabbi Eliezer ben Shimon?
No, we talked about shiur, because his logic was any kind of liquid added is mixture to the powder.
Right.
The meshlakos should be no different.
Well, it's only if you intended to drink them as beverage. That's what you're right. I'm not sure I would learn the difference. I don't know. It's possible that he would argue on this Gemara. Okay. Says Gemara. Lo marachachayim shema. Oh, do you have this roll? What do you have next? Okay, I have a header. They were getting back to the case where there's 7 mashkin. Rabbi Yochai said, "Im yomelcha adam shmona mashkin." If a person says there are 8 beverages, and Morlo they said they're barely even say to him in response, in refutation, they're barely even 7. And Morlo tell him, because dew and water are really the same type. Them is 2. And if we had even more, lo haven menune, wouldn't we have counted them since they're not there? So therefore, this is it. There are only 7. There aren't 8. Okay? Halacha Gimel. Cooking with gas today. Ain't no seed tomorrow in Dvash. You're not allowed to make from dates honey. Plota buchim yain. You're allowed to make from apples wine. Pelosi from his home. It's not allowed to make from grapes, vinegar, v'shar koperes, and any other fruit. Even shani mosam briyasan. One is not allowed to change the way they grew. B'truma ma'aser sheni when you make them truma ma'aser sheni. Ella zeisim anoyevad, except for olives and grapes where it's permissible. Ain't soaking with our boy. Nishum orla. If somebody eats an orla product of any of these trees, you're not chayav 40 lashes. Ella yitzim min hazeis v'nomim. But something came out of olive oil, unless it's olive oil or grape juice. And you cannot bring bikurim, which are in liquid form, except for olive oil and grape juice. And the only thing which is mashul kabel tuma is olive oil and grape juice. One cannot sacrifice anything other than that which comes from olives in the form of olive oil for the menachos, and grapes in the form of wine for the nisul chayayin. Okay, let's go to the Gemara. Rabbi Hillel b'shem Rabbi Lezer. Everybody see that? Rabbi Hillel b'shem Rabbi Lezer. Hillel said name Rabbi Lezer. Kini mas nisan. This is the way to read our Mishnah. Fascinating thing. There's a contradiction between our Mishnah and Mishnah Chalo. The Mishnah Chalo, though it's not brought here, says that Yosef HaKohen brought bikurim from wine and oil, and they didn't take it from him. Didn't take it from him in the Beis HaMikdash. So they asked the Kasha, it said, how can you reconcile with our Mishnah? Our Mishnah says you can bring it. Oil and wine is the only type of bikurim you can bring in liquid form. So how do we reconcile the stira? So it says, I'll tell you how we do it. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Lezer said, Kini mas is the way to read our Mishnah. Ein osim bikurim mashkiim. El yotzim nazeisim anovim. It means that one cannot make the Kohen who got the bikurim cannot make them into zeisim anovim, into fruit juice, unless it's olive oil or grape juice, which is going to get out of it. Okay, let's see that again. You have a mevian, I think, but it's supposed to be osim. A kini mas is the way to read our Mishnah. Ein osim bikurim mashkin. There in Chala it says you can't bring bikurim from mashkin, from beverage, right? Even from wine and oil. Here you can bring bikurim from. Oh wait. Huh? No, not by bikurim. Yeah, before we said you can't. Now we're switching topics. Now we're on bikurim. Yeah, I was right. Our Mishnah is talking about ein osim bikurim mashkin. Our Mishnah says the Mishnah over there says you don't bring bikurim from wine and oil, even from wine and oil. All bikurim you bring has to be in the fruit form, not in a additionally processed form. That's what the Mishnah says over there. What's the Mishnah saying over here? So we're changing here, saying in our Mishnah says ein osim, meaning that the Kohen himself, once he gets the bikurim, can't use the bikurim for any other purpose except the original food stuff, with the exception of olive oil and grape juice. He can press olives and press grapes, which he gets, in order to make olive oil and grape juice, but that's the only exception. Okay? Says the Gemara, even once the bailim acquired even once the Kohen accepted him, so then the Kohen accepted the bikurim is still limited from squeezing the fruit, except the only thing he can squeeze and make juices or oil out of it is olive oil and grape juice. Okay? Vatanya. Hi, did we learn a price? No matter how you bring it. So it's a kasha. This price says that you can make bikurim out of fruit juice. Contradiction. Says tamon. You don't have the word tamon. It's in here. Tamon shalok the mishar yisrayin almanas kain. You can bring bikurim as wine and olive oil if that was the original intent when you made the bikurim. You intended to bring it as wine and olive oil, then it's permissible. Okay? However, our Mishnah is talking about a case where you did not intend originally to bring it in that shape or form. Tani, we learned, if you have oil of truma, which is Torah, you can make from it, or you have olives of oil, which is Torah, oil of truma, which is Torah, you can make from it, or strike two. You have olives. You can make olive oil from them. Very simple. Okay, you have olives and truma. You can make olive oil from them if they're tor. It's main. Lo yasu shemen. However, what happens if you have tummy olives? You can't make olive oil of truma from them. Vanovim, by grapes, bain to tomatoes, bain to horos lo yosu. By grapes, you should never ever make. Period. You should never ever make any liquid out of them before you give.
You should just use them as is. Rabbi Yaakov Mishmo. Now, why is that? So the reason given is because that the grape juice or olive oil is more susceptible to kabel tuma than the grapes or olives themselves. By definition, it's already a liquid, right? So therefore, it's better to live in a solid form as long as possible. They're very mayor. Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yaakov says, no. Lo nechleku Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua Zeisim Torim Sheyeh also. Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua never argued on Torah Zeisim that they can be made into olive oil and grape juice. Aman echlu, whether they argue in ala tmein on tomei grapes and olives. Rabbi Lezer Mer Lo Yasu, you shouldn't make them into grape oil, grape juice, and olive oil. If Shumei Yasu, they're allowed to. Rabbi Anovi Torah, what about grapes? If they're Torah Yasu, they made in grape juice. Tomatoes, if they're Tomei Yasu, they cannot. Rabbi said, Moide Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua, B'zeisim Toichim and Anovi Torahs, if they're both Torah Yasu, you can make them into olive oil and grape juice. Aman Echlu, where they argue on Tmeim, on two types of times it's tummy. Rabbi Lezer says you can't make them into olive oil and grape juice. Rabbi Yeshua says they can. Amar Rabbi said more than Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua b'zeisim torim. Lezer and Yeshua both concede by kosher by Torah olives sheyasu that you can make them into olive oil. If you have tomei olives or grapes, so you can't make them into grape juice or olive oil. What's their machlokas? Only on kosher grapes. Rabbi Lezer says you can't use them if they make to press into grape juice and olive oil. Rabbi says you can. Now it's all very confusing, so he has a table here. You guys all see? According to Rabbi Meir, okay, here's the table. You have olives and grapes, each one Torah and tummy. According to Rabbi Meir, according to Tanakama, by olives which are Torah, you can press them. Olives with tummy, you can't. Why? Because we're afraid you're going to leave it around and use it for the improper purpose.
Use it for oil and burning?
What?
You're supposed to burn it anyway.
Yeah, but we're afraid you're not going to get it. You might actually eat it. Okay? So, by grapes, regardless of whether the Torah tummy, you can't use them or you can't press them. Even the Torah, why? Because they're more likely to become tummy. So you can't press them, period. Okay. Now, going down the line, Rabbi Yaakov holds that in Rabbi Eliezer, well, all three boxes out of four are the same. So both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua hold that by Torah olives you may press them. They both hold that also by Torah grapes you may press them. Because he's not afraid that maybe, something will happen and there'll be makabel to him or more. And they both agree that by Tomei grapes you're not allowed to press them because, again, you might use them improperly. What's their machlokas by Tomei olives? Rabbi Yaakov says you shouldn't press them, which makes sense because you might use the oil improperly. Rabbi Yaakov named Rabbi Lezer says you shouldn't press them. Rabbi Yaakov named Rabbi Shua says you can press them. Why can't you press them? Because you put them in a repugnant vessel, so you won't use them for anything other than burning them. You have a practical eitzah, and that practical eitzah is sufficient to permit the pressing thereof. Now, Rabbi Yehuda is almost exactly the same. Okay? It's just that he adds on a machlokas in Tomei grapes. He holds, Rabbi Yehuda holds that both Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua agree that by Torah olives, you can press them. They have the same machlokas by Tomei olives as Rabbi Yaakov said that according to Rabbi Eliezer you cannot press them. According to Rabbi Yeshua you can press them. They both agree that by Novim Torahs you may press them. What's their additional machlokas? What about by Novim Tmeos? So Rabbi Yehuda says you may not press them because they're tummy and afraid you're going to eat them in the tummy stage. Rabbi Yeshua says you may press them. Why may you press them? So he says, very interesting thing, which we're going to learn in the later. He says, because once you press them, you're left with pits. And pits you can use as fuel. So it's advantageous to get any possible use out of truma that I can, even to use as fuel. So therefore I should press them and use the pits as fuel. Okay? I guess they had thick pits in the old days. Finally, Rabbi holds, again, both by Torah olives, everybody agrees you can press. By Torah olives, everybody agrees you cannot press. By Torah grapes, everybody agrees you cannot press. Where does Rebbe have machlokas, a new concept? He holds that by a novim toheros, we have a machlokas. Rabbi Eliezer holds you cannot press them. I assume because they're going to, like Rabbi Meir said previously, because you might come to no, but grapes, because they might come to Kabul Tumah. They're Torah grapes, so they might come to Kabul Tumah. According to Rabbi Yeshua, you still can press them. Why can you press them? Because he holds, like everybody else, that we're not afraid of this coming day Tumah. Okay, so that's all the machlokim. Bottom line is confusing Gemara. Says Gemara further. Kol Ama Rabbi and Rabbi Meir. Everybody ganged up on Rabbi Meir. The whole nation ganged on Rabbi Meir. They went boo, boo, boo. And they all said, Banovi, now we're on top of Nun Vav and Beis, Banovi Toiros Sheyasu. If you have kosher grapes, not kosher, keep saying kosher. If you have Torah grapes, you should be able to press them. Lama lo yasu. Why shouldn't you be able to press them? Says Gemara, Rabbi Meir responded, Chashuva saying lo achel yetzer mashke. Now the Pashut Pshat Gemara means that grapes are better to eat whole than they are to eat as grape juice. And therefore Rabbi Meir says for that reason you can't press them. But that's very strange because we know grapes are worth a lot more as grape juice than as grapes. So therefore, makes more sense for like Kavanoki says to learn his other pshat that they're chashuva saying locha means they're more safeguarded from tuma as ochel than as mashka. And that's Rabbi Meir holds. Don't press them until the last possible moment, if at all. It's higher bracha. That's true. Yeah. Okay, that would be part of the question. Kama Rabbi Yehuda. Everybody came to Rabbi Yehuda, they booed him. By Novim Tmeos Shloyasu. By Torah grapes, that's the point of pressing them. Meil is Tomei olive oil. So you use it to burn it. And in the meantime, you keep it in a repulsive vessel, so you won't eat it. But what are you going to do with Tomei Truma grape juice? You can't use it as fuel. What's the use? It's useless. Why would you press it? Says the Gemara, like we said before, Bishvilenos mina chatzogim mina zagim, to have enough from the pits and skins, which you will use in order to light your fire. Zaysin Tmei, by olive the Tramei, Rameir for Rebbe Rameir Chat, Rebbe Rameir both say the same thing, meaning that by olives which are Tame, right? What are we talking about? Yeah. By the Tame, Rabbi and Rameir both said you shouldn't press them. Rabbi and Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yehuda both said that at least in Rabbi Yeshua we always pass like you can press them. So says more Hechav din uvda. How do we know what to do? The answer is we don't know what to do. It's not resolved. But the Ram says a fascinating thing. Ram says, what do you do if you have Tomei olives and you want to press them and use the oil, which is Truma? So he said you can press them as long as you don't have a kippetz in one place. Because remember, the mashkin only get Tomei as they leave the original location. And here in this case, We're talking about tumas ochlin, and tumas ochlin only can come from a substance which is the size of kibetza. So therefore, as long as you have in each location the amount of olives which are less than the size of kibetza, you can press them. Why can you press them? Because as the olive oil comes out, it remains tar, and that's okay. So they're talking about here cases where the olive oil becomes tar, makes you press it. That's where there's a problem. Okay? Says the Gemara further. Says the Mishnah further. Let's go back to the Mishnah. Uksei te'inim. If you have the piston in a fig, you know the piston is probably the wrong word. The stem, right? That's the buchna. Uksei te'inim ugrogros, and the stem of a date. Vaklisim, and the stem of some other type of fig. Vacharuven, and the stem of carob, shor truma, asun lazorim. You can't eat the stems. Why not? Says the Gemara. Rabbi Zir B'Shem Rabbi Lezer say, Omas Disa, our Mishnah Muvlos Ba'ocha, where the stems are somewhat stuck into the food. So they take on the flavor of the food, that's why they're also. Call Rabbi Zira, so Gemara tells the principle. I don't know how you have it there, but call Rabbi Zira the Trumas or the Taros. Anytime Rabbi Zira appears in Trumas and Taros, B'Shem Rabbi Elazar, the statement is making name of Rabbi Elazar. Halacha Dalet. Garine Truma. We did 2 blot already, right? Okay, let's just do a little bit extra. Garine Truma. Bismar Trumach Nasan. If you collect Truma seeds, if you gather them, asuros, watermelon seeds from truma, now they become truma, right? Imishlichon, if you throw them out, mutaros, then a zor can come and eat them. So really, it's a subjective thing, depending on whether this guy keeps them or throws them out. Atzmos kachim, so to the bones of a korban. If you gather them, asurim, gives the chashivas. Imishlichon, if you toss them out, mutarin, then they're permissible. Why? Because again, they're not edible, and they lost their chashivas, and they got thrown out. Let's see the Gemara. Hamur son mutter, husk of wheat of truma is permissible. Psubin shel chadosh is the bran of new wheat, which is still somewhat moist. The bran is inside the husk. Asuros is forbidden. The shel yishanos of older wheat, where it's drier and tougher, it's mutter because it's always truma. V'noi b'truma k'derech shenoi b'chulin. In general, this is part of the Mishnah. I'm sorry, I told you it's the Gemara. It's part of the Mishnah. Yeah, sorry, my mistake. Okay, it's part of the Mishnah. He has separate paragraphs, so I was mistaken for the Gemara, but it's in the Mishnah. V'noi b'truma k'derech shenoi b'chulin. Generally, you can sift truma the same way you sift chulin. Okay, in sifting, even though you lose some stuff in the process, it's okay. Okay, you're still allowed to sift normally. Hamasalis, however, what if you sift a second sifting? In order to keep the coarser kernels of grain, which is called soles, and toss the finer kernels of flour. Of flour. So besides kavakabayim, if you're doing the second time around, and you're losing a kav or two for in each sa'ah, which you're losing from, which is the finer flour. Well, you're taking out a kavakabayim. I'm sorry, you're taking out 1/6 to 1 or 1/6 or 2 1/3, and the rest is those fine flour. You can't let that go to waste. You have to keep it in some safe place and use it, because that's already too much waste from truma. It's not permitted. Continuing along the idea of how we conduct ourselves with truma, if you have a warehouse from which you emptied out grain of truma, you don't have to go down on your hands and knees and get out each kernel of truma which might be left on the floor. Sweep it out like normally, but put chulin into it. So too, if you have a barrel of truma oil and stuff, spilled out, we don't require you to gather up the truma by patting every single last oil so you can get out all the oil. So cleanup is the same cleanup you would normally do by chulin. Okay, now let's go to the Gemara. Sorry. Garine Truma. Do you have those words? Rabbi Yochanan said, Armish talk about Galine Agosim, the seeds of pears, Krustamilin, and another type of pears he must eat. Has to be an edible pit. A non-edible pit has no Kedusha's Truma to it, period. It's talking about edible, just not everybody eats them. So it depends if you're keeping them or throw them out, it becomes subjective. Rabbi Eliezer said, "Rafilu Tamar b'Garine harotev." You know, I can tell you about date pits, which are completely inedible. They're really tough. They're like wood. However, b'mchusaros, and they can have they might even have no food content in them. They might be missing any food content, but lamatzmates, you want to suck them. You want to suck them. That means the juices inside have kedushas truma. V'atin asks Gemara, so what's comparison to bones? V'atin imchena tzomas kedoshim isach hameir mchusaros lamatzmates. It's talking about bones which have no food content, meaning no marrow. So what are you sucking by the bones? So this morning the bones is different. You're right. So bones are about lo baroshik knafayim baschusim. It's talking about the tips of the wings and the cartilage, which are soft enough that if you cook them, you can eat them. And that's why it's subjective. If you toss them out, they remain cartilage. If you you set them aside for cooking, though, then they still are considered to be part and parcel of the korban and are still kodesh. So our Mishnah tell you about the tips of the wings and the cartilage, and that's why it's subjective. Have a good evening.